Used to everything on the floor.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Can you go on mute?
I type.
Hey guys, go on mute. Everybody, please. We have 56 participants right now. We'll wait a bit, maybe no more than 3 more minutes and get started. While we are waiting, does anyone have any questions? Unmute yourself and ask a question if you have any.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So how will you decide which groups you take to the pitch fest?
That is yet to be determined on a couple of factors. Usually in a class like this, we have dropouts. People start strong and then drop out, obviously. And if the number of entries is less than what we can accommodate in the pitch fest, and everybody gets in, that's one factor. The second factor is that if you have a completed business plan, if you don't have one, then obviously you cannot participate in the pitch fest. Number three is if you have a completed team. I mean, there are a lot of people who want to do it solo. We don't allow solo. You have to be in a team of at least 3 people. So, so we'll make a decision towards the end.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So basically, what if in the future, near future, you're gonna have a conflicting class with the entrepreneurship sessions every week, yet you still communicate with your teammates over Slack? Does that mean that you're still a part of the group?
Well, if it's going to conflict in every week, then I don't see a point of you being in the class, right? If it was conflicting once or something like that, then we could have accommodated. Because I think you're going to really slow down your teammates. They need participation from you as well, right? So I think you'll have to make an executive decision there.
Is the pitch fest gonna be in person or is it gonna be online? Because with everything going on, is it gonna still continue?
Yeah, it's all online. All online. Nothing face-to-face, all online.
How about you're not in a proper group? Like, I'm not in a group, so.
Okay, are you on Slack?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are two channels on Slack. There's an entrepreneurship channel, and then someone created an entrepreneurship groups channel. What I would do is, if I were you, I would go there and sell yourself, meaning, you know, what age group you belong to or what grade group you belong to, and what skills you have, and you can join an existing team, or
Okay.
start a new team and invite people that you're looking these kind of people. You need at least 2 more.
Because last week I asked and I didn't get any replies for that either. So.
If you ask and you don't get it, if you've given it a try, then direct message me. I will try to fit you into a team.
Okay.
I had a question.
I'm answering every question on whoever's asked me. I'm answering every question. Direct message to me. I'm reviewing every homework. Direct message to me. Even one that came in literally a few minutes before the class start here. So for those who are not submitting the homework, please start doing that. It's I tried to make them a lot of fun, the homework. I try to make them, you know, something that is not cumbersome to you, as in the homework you get from school. It should be fun. So please try to complete it. All homework going forward, including last week, was team homework. So you should be a part of the team and you should be submitting to me homework from the team. The other thing is on Slack, I'm starting to create separate channels for teams. So if you send me who all are in your team with their at the sign IDs and the team name, then I will create a private channel for us, your team and me, to communicate going forward. Okay, let's get started. We are all of 87 strong. Not bad.
Mr. Seth, I have a question.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Suppose that even though we may not be able to attend the classes, yet we still always follow up on the homework and understand the slideshows, then can you still be a part of it?
Yeah, look, I mean, yes is the simple answer. The complex answer is, you know, are your teammates happy with you in terms of participation? You don't, you know, I expect everyone to be equal participants in a team. So if your team is good with it, then I'm good with it.
Yeah, because like we're all very integral parts of our team, and if we were to fall apart, we can't have a business. So.
Got it. Okay, good.
Mr. Seth, I also had a question.
Yes, please.
So for the entrepreneurship project, is it a requirement to make an app or a website?
No.
Okay, and then also.
Let me address that really quick before you ask the follow-up question. So the end point of this entrepreneurship course is a completed business plan. In the history of teaching these to many students, I have seen that many students go over and beyond creating just a business plan. What we did last time was we ran this in 2 semesters. The first semester was a business plan. The second semester was converting your plan to a product. But since this time it's just 1 semester, and given that we have coding classes going on in parallel, I would encourage you to take up as a part of your coding class your project, if indeed it is an app or a software. A lot of times it's not. Like a lot of my previous students have built, for example, a robot, right? So if you can go over and beyond, you're welcome to. What was the follow-up question?
Oh, I don't have a follow-up question anymore. Thank you, though.
Okay, good. Okay, let's get started. Hold your questions. I'll give you time at the end to answer them as well. We are in week 3, and now we really what I call get into the business side of this course. The business side meaning nitty-gritty. Let's get deep into the weeds or whatever mechanism you want to use. But, you know, the first two classes were a lot of fun and, you know, kind of introspective in a lot of way, but also hopefully raised your intrigue level high enough that you could, that you were able to look at certain entrepreneurs that you get inspired by. And today, we're going to take that into a segue. We'll still talk a little bit about inspiration and traits of successful entrepreneurs, and a little bit meaning just one case study, but then we'll get into what constitutes a business plan. So today's course is all about the pieces of the puzzle. If you remember the first course or the first session, where I talked about unless you have all of the pieces of the puzzle, you just can't complete the puzzle. Unless you have all of the pieces of the business plan, it is incomplete, and a VC will reject it. VC will say, you know what, you haven't, your technology is great, but I don't invest in technology. I invest in a sound business plan. A sound business plan has all of the components jiving and coming together. So today we'll dive right into what a business plan is. But really, to recap, can everyone see my entire screen? I kind of have a video screen and a chat screen running in parallel. Are you able to see my entire presentation screen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good, because in my screen, I also have the chat and the video going. So hopefully that's not inhibiting my visual to you. So anyway, quickly recapping week 1 and week 2. While you digest the third one, the third column here, which is the Bruce Lee quote. So first week, we talked about what's your area of passion. We talked about what is creativity and how passion and creativity are interlinked and synergistic in terms of giving you the ability to really think big. And then not only do you want to think about your area of passion, get super excited, but also analyze it to see what problems, what different issues exist in your area of passion, to try to think through if there indeed is a possibility of you solving that problem and therefore having a successful startup, right? The next part of that is also, is the solution that you're proposing business worthy? Meaning, look, there are lots of problems there and a lot of people can attempt to solve it, but if it's not business worthy meaning that it can give you good returns, then there's no point really of a startup. Week 2, we talked about, you know, and I really enjoyed that. Week 2, as I told you last week, we talked about the values of, you know, what integrity is. And as I said, I will be a broken record, and here I go. There is no substitute for hard work, right? I don't know a single entrepreneur who's been successful who didn't put in a lot of work. And think about all of the homework that you guys have submitted, right? When you submitted, you know, facts about an entrepreneur, I always responded back to you. I replied back to you and said, can you dissect from those facts that you've given me about an Elon Musk or whoever you wrote to me about, to find out what traits were in that entrepreneur that make them so successful. And hard work, I'm sure, will be in each one of them. We talked about leadership and what leadership means. We talked about leading with integrity. We talked about, you know, and a lot of you had some great ideas about what leadership is. You know, looking to have people follow you without forcing them was one of the answers that you guys provided. And then most importantly, and that's my second broken record, as I promised you every time I will, the social good aspect of it. Always think about, you know, how you can do good for the world, how you can give back, how you can make yourself impactful, not just in making a lot of money, but also for the good of the humankind. It could be that you have a socially responsible idea for a startup, but it also could be, if you remember Tom's shoes, how for every piece of shoe or every pair of shoe that they sell, they give one pair away to a child who doesn't have, cannot afford a pair of shoe that is. So think about not only socially good as an entire startup idea, but what you can do in the realm of your own business that you can also give back. right? And I will always give you high marks for that. People who've been successful in my class know that, you know, when I evaluate, I try to look at that angle as well. So today, after that week, we segue into a case study of one of my favorite entrepreneurs. I'm sure yours as well. There wouldn't be a single person here who does not use one of the products that he has under his umbrella of products. And so here is a quintessential example of turning a passion, finding a problem in the area of passion, and using creativity to bring reality to the problems in that area of passion. And that passion for this person was making the world more open and connected. Making the world more open and connected. Can you guess who this entrepreneur is?
Marc Zuckerberg.
Marc Zuckerberg, indeed. So we're going to talk about Marc because I want to share with you something that is very profound. And this is something that I want you, as a part of the course, to take a few minutes to read. So Marc obviously wanted to make the world more open and connected. And look where we stand today, right? Facebook alone has over 1.7 billion active users every day, day after day. And that translates to over 2 billion users a month. And that is just Facebook as we know it, but doesn't also include other successful products like Instagram, like WhatsApp. In fact, WhatsApp has completely turned around the messaging and telephony area, telecom. You know, I used to, when I came into this country, pay $1.67, $1.67 for every minute that I used to call my parents in India. Right now, I just use WhatsApp to converse with every one of my friends for free, right? And so that's the kind of radical change that Facebook has brought about. So what I want to introduce to you as a part of this case study is what I call, or what Marc called, the hacker way. And so when Marc took Facebook public, when he filed for the IPO, at the IPO time, he wrote a letter. And the letter basically captures the mind frame of who we know Marc Zuckerberg is. And a portion of that letter is called the hacker way. And again, this letter is, again, extremely worthy reading. I would say must read for every budding entrepreneur. I will post it to Slack today, the hacker way. But the hacker way is basically, let me pull it up really quick. Congrats. Give me a second. There it is. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay. So this was dated February 1st, 2012. It is Marc's IPO letter. And it has this, this sound opening. It's all of 6 pages, not too long. And it goes into talking about our mission and our business. But before that, it talks about his passion and the problem in his area of passion, right? So the first 2 pages are that. Then he talks about the company and the values of the company. Then he goes on in page 4 on what he calls the hacker way. The hacker way is something that I want you all to imbibe. And the hacker way, going back to the presentation, so this sheet is really the introduction. The hacker way really talks about these 5 areas, right? But the hacker way is an approach of building something that involves continuous improvement, right? He introduces this concept called move fast. And he says that, look, I know when people move fast, they will make mistakes. So he says it's okay to fail, right? It's very important to imbibe that. He says it's okay to fail, But as long as you learn from your mistakes, right, and you move, and you're able to move fast, then it's okay to fail. The other thing he talks about is fail fast, right? Which is, look, if you're going to fail, fail as fast as you can, right? So you don't have to wait for 2, 3, 5 years to fail. If you iterate and you iterate quickly, and if you're bold, and if you're open, then the whole concept of you will bring about failures sooner than later, you learn from it and you move forward. And so this focus on impact, as he calls it, is quite profound in the last 2, 3 pages of the letter, The Hacker Way, which I'd like you all to read. And then as I mentioned, the last part of it is you have to build social value. It's not just you're in it to make mucho money. I'm sure you are, but also how can you build social value? And he talks about this concept as well, and it's important because that's what I want to teach here as well. So again, your homework today would be The Hacker Way, to read it and get back to me on what you found profound in the letter. Okay. Then segueing very quickly, as I promised, we'll talk about the pieces of the puzzle called business plan, but really segueing a little bit into what I call real world realities. And the first thing I want to talk about is what is the spirit of Silicon Valley, right? And Jeffrey Immelt, who's the outgoing CEO of GE, he has this very famous quote, and he says, if you went to bed last night as an industrial company and substitute an industrial company with any other company, you're going to wake up the next morning as a software and an analytics company. You're going to wake up as a company that is driven by what we call computing, or what we call the digital era, and driven by data. And why I am bringing this up is each of you, majority of you in middle school, a big chunk of you in low high school, the concept of what we imbibe and bring about in Silicon Valley, we are fortunate because we are in the middle of this revolution. The revolution has started. It started many years ago, I would argue 20 years ago. But the revolution is every single company, you name it, healthcare and insurance, they're all a data company. They're all a software company, right? So what we are and what we learn every day in our schooling is what will make us extremely successful in your area of choice if you know these 3 things, which is computing, software and digital and hardware, not necessarily as much hardware, but at least software, data, especially around all the data that's collected day in and day out by every business, big data and analytics. And number 3, my area of focus for the last 25 years, what we are now calling artificial intelligence, which is building intelligence into computing that allows the computer to make important decisions, think and act like humans. These 3 areas are extremely important for every student, whether you're an aspiring med student, an economics student, a legal student, whatever you are, to look at and imbibe as a part of Silicon Valley. A lot of high schoolers come to me for coaching. They ask me, look, I want a career in this area, what should I do? And, my coaching sessions are very simple. You need these 3, apart from what else you need in your field of focus, but you do need these 3, whatever you do. Don't tell me you want to be a janitor, but whatever you do, you will need these 3 things. This famous IBM slide kind of really lays out how the era of how enterprises are born and how they morph. Think about the world's largest taxi companies owns no taxis, right? Uber, Lyft, they don't own any taxis. The largest hoteling company owns no real estate anymore, Airbnb. Airbnb, unlike Holiday Inn and all of the old age of how hoteling happened, the hospitality industry happened, Airbnb owns not a single piece of real estate. Largest phone companies, those that we talked about, WhatsApp, own no telephony infrastructure. Think about how many billions or trillions of dollars has gone into telephony infrastructure, but Skype, WeChat, WhatsApp don't own any of that infrastructure. The world's most valuable retailer has no inventory. So you would think that you would buy things from people who would have all of these goods to sell you, but the world's largest retailer, Alibaba, has, and here, think about Amazon and eBay, they have no inventory. Amazon is a different story, but most popular media company creates no content. Alibaba, Facebook, as we discussed, has over 2 billion users consuming media, but unlike Time Warner, CNN, Facebook creates no content of their own. And we can go on and on and on, right? And this is a profound slide that talks about how disruption has been brought about by very entrepreneurial entities who basically came about in their area of passion to invent new ways of doing things that radically change age-old, hundreds of years old industries and put them completely upside down on their head, right? That is the value of creativity and taking ownership of your passion. So always think out of the box. The next concept I want to introduce in today's class is, we in Silicon Valley are fortunate not only because of that background we talked about, but also because we have a rich source of investment in the form of VCs that live and breed their businesses around us. So a venture capitalist is basically someone who's willing to take the risk with you to invest in your company. And these are the people you will meet in the pitch fest. But a venture capitalist basically also, in very Silicon Valley-esque way, completely turned upside down on its head the way investments are made in startups. The previous way was that you would get a loan and you would put in family money and you would start a business. The venture capitalists, in a similar light to the Silicon Valley way of doing things, said, "Hey, listen, I wouldn't want to loan you the money. I would want a piece of, if you make it big, that I get a piece of that rather than just interest on money that I loan you." And the VC way has become a very important way by which the Silicon Valley and startup ecosystem has evolved. And therefore, the VCs are very important. I don't have my chat screen here, but can you guys name any VCs that you know? Any kind of
something. The people on Shark Tank.
Okay, yeah, they're pseudo VCs. Name a VC firm here in the Silicon Valley. Mark Cuban, yeah. Kevin O'Leary, these are Shark Tanks, or Sharks, I'm sorry, Laurie, Shark again.
Robert,
how would you, sir, I have a question.
Vinod Costa is a good one. Yes, what's your question?
So how would you draw the distinguishment between an investor and a venture capitalist?
Yeah, good question. Charles Barkley, I didn't know was a VC. He's an investor, but I will answer that question. But keep going. Do you know any
Jackson
firms in the Silicon Valley? Someone talked about Vinod Khosla. Vinod Khosla has Khosla Ventures, which is a very famous, one of the premier VC firms in Silicon Valley. How many of you have heard of Kleiner Perkins? Sequoia. Sequoia invested in Google. How many of you know about Andreessen Horowitz? So these are VC firms. What people are streaming in the chat, as I'm seeing, they are showing names of people who do investments, so people who did investments, Steve Jobs. But VC firms are where these people usually work. For example, Andreessen, who founded Mozilla, and what became what's today the browsers of today, is now part of Andreessen Horowitz, along with Horowitz.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes, I'm going to answer that question about difference between an investor and a VC. What's the question?
Oh, my question was, that the people who do the people that you like pitch your songs to like become singers, do they count as VCs?
A good question. Let me hold that question as well. I'll answer that as part of the previous question, which is the difference between an investor and a VC, and I'll talk about music there. Any other questions? Excel is a good one.
My question, sir, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was the exact same one I asked slightly before. Like, how do we distinguish between a venture capitalist and investor?
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question. I'm holding the question, yes. But right now we're talking about naming VC firms. I think many have come out. In the Silicon Valley, you want to be able to look out for big names, Costa Ventures, Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia, Excel, Kleiner Perkins, Benchmark Capital, Greylock Ventures, Menlo Ventures is a very good one, Mayfield is a good one. So these are, you know, if you get some time, I would Google these and try to find out what these people invest in. All of them have websites. So now let's talk about what's the difference between a VC and a normal investor, right? A normal investor generally loans you money, right? So suppose I want to start a company that say I want to build a new type of a basketball. Let's use that example from last time, given all of the LeBron James fans here. And if I were to go to an investor and say, look, you know, I want to build a factory where I'm going to invent a new type of a material that will make basketballs significantly easier to play, better shootability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for me to put up the factory, I would need $10 million. And then I need to build a team. I need to hire real estate. I need to do this. So look, I'm looking for $20 million. A normal investor will say, okay, look, I'm willing to write you a check for $20 million, but here are my terms. I will loan you that money at 10% per annum. That means you have to pay me back not only the principal, which is $20 million, but also an extra $10 million per year as interest, right? And generally, they will look for some collateral. Collateral being, look, what do you have of value? Suppose you don't pay me that I could get if you end up defaulting on your loan, right? So that's a normal investor. That's how investments happen in the rest of the world. But as you know, we in Silicon Valley are special. A VC, basically, in that same example of the basketball, looks at the idea and says, look, you have an idea that I really believe myself. So how about I give you the $20 million, but you let me own 30% of your company, right? And if you let me own a large chunk of your company, so when you make it big and then LeBron James goes ahead and the NBA League then goes ahead and signs a deal for the new balls from you, and you end up making $100 million in revenue, your company will be worth $1 billion. So at that point, for $1 billion, if I own 30% of the company, then my net worth as a part of that company would be $300 million. So the VC is looking at it saying that, look, I will give you the $20 million, but I'll take a big chunk of your company. And then if your company does well, then I will become super rich. Like most VCs have become super rich after investing in Google or a Facebook or a Tesla or whatever, right? So that's the big difference between a venture capitalist and a normal investor. Specifically, the venture capitalist takes ownership of your company, takes risk along with you, whereas a normal investor does not take the risk, just loans you the money as a shark. Now, in the music industry, to answer the second question, in the music industry, you generally go and pitch your music to a label. A label is an entity that basically provides you recording infrastructure, recording capabilities. It allows, it has the capability to basically create media out of your business or your songs that they will market you to the people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. they are a kind of investor because they are also believing in you, but they're not necessarily a venture capitalist. They are more like a venture capitalist than normal investor because generally in a music deal, suppose I'm a singer and I cut a deal with a recording label, generally the recording label also for every media sold, whether it's a CD or a song on iTunes, they get a cut of it. So in a way, they're participating in the returns like a VC does. Does that make sense?
But sir, I have another question.
Oh.
So it's actually less of a question, sir. But then technically, when the venture capitalists are buying the shares, won't the shares in their initial stages sell very small dividends? That will only increase as the company value also increases?
Yes. When
So
a
how,
company, go ahead.
so how much would those shares potentially be for like as like newly rising company, like a novel company?
Yeah. So there is a section in next week's class where we talk about valuation, we talk about stock, we talk
And
about
company shares?
but very quickly, when the value of a share is based on the valuation of the company.
The appreciation of the company as well counts, right, sir?
The appreciation of the company at a later stage after the valuation has been certified via an event like an IPO or a sale, that's when it comes to light. So,
So
we
it's,
talk about paper money and we talk about real money. Let's talk about that next week. Hold that thought. These are
all right.
important concepts that we will learn actually starting next week. I will talk to you about paper money. I will talk to you about valuation. I will talk to you about stock and how stock valuations increase of the stock, etc. I believe it's in session 4. Yes, session 4. Good?
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, first of all, if you go to a VC and then you ask for a certain amount, does your net value have to be 10 times that?
Net value of
Like net worth,
net worth of an individual?
like of the company.
the net worth is based on the appreciation of the company itself. So if the company value increases from what you originally spent to like sort of basically have it be built, then that difference is the appreciation of the company and that decides net worth.
Oh, okay. And also, can you do a review at the end?
Yeah, so I'm not sure I captured the last conversation. I don't think there's a tie in of net worth of an individual or a company and shares. Again, don't get confused. I think let's not discuss this week. There's a structured way to approach this, which will be next week. The structured way is where we learn the components that make up the pieces, the overall puzzle. And if you understand the pieces, then you'll understand the process. Okay.
I also have a question.
Go ahead.
Are we going to be learning about binary trading?
No, you're not.
Oh, okay.
Trading is not a part of this course. This is about how you create a startup and what you need to create a startup. How should you raise capital from VCs? Trading is that course where they talk about how you trade stocks and bonds and what's the difference between the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so let's get into the meats and potatoes of this course. All of you now have a team, or most of you have a team. You have a cool team name. I've been seeing some really cool names stream through. Oxygen for All is one, for example. And then now you want to basically, first of all, ascertain that the idea has merit, that the idea holds water. And holding water is not just that you have good technology, that it has to be viable as a business idea. So what do you do to take it to the next step? What do you do to, after wetting it yourself, what do you do to bring that in front of an investor, a VC, to be able to get funded? What you do is basically create a business plan, right? The business plan is basically, there are a gazillion different entrepreneurs everywhere and anywhere. Every one of them creates a business plan. So if there is something that you learn from this, whether you become an entrepreneur or not, you will carry that out to the world, that how you create business plans. And that is supremely important as a part of your being as a student who's going to be a successful adult tomorrow. The ability to discern a multi-dimensional mechanism by which you vet ideas, that you look at the merits of certain things in life, right? And again, it's a very multi-dimensional problem, and the business plan allows you to dissect that multi-dimensional problem, right? So now I'm going to talk about 8 components of the business plan. The eight components of a business plan. And again, if you remember from week 1, I've been talking about pieces of the puzzle, right? And only when these components come together does the puzzle come to light. Otherwise, it's an incomplete puzzle, and a VC is going to say, "Go away! You wasted my time. Go back and think about this, and come back, if at all." Most VCs will kick you out and never see you again, right? Because I have seen time and again VCs. I've sat on both sides of the table, the VC side as well as the entrepreneur side. I have seen most people don't get this right. Most entrepreneurs don't get this right. They just don't get it right. So think about these 8 pieces at the minimum that you need. The problem statement, right? Which is, remember, your passion converts with creativity to what's the problem that you need to address. Number 2 is your proposed solution to that problem. Number 3 is how are you going to take it to business? So you're going to obviously create a product around that technology, which is number 4. But what is your business model, right? Number 5, very importantly, who else does what you're trying to do as your idea? The competition is so important. If you are sitting with a VC and you have an hour meeting, I'll guarantee you that a lot of times, at least 30 minutes are spent in discussing who the competitors are. Number 6, someone asked the question last week, what's the difference between marketing and sales? But you do need both. They go hand in hand. Number 7, as I've talked about from the beginning, VCs invest in teams, VCs invest in people, VCs invest in looking at the spunk in an entrepreneur and how successful that entrepreneur will be. Combine that with the idea, the team is supremely important. And then last but not the least, what's the financial model? So how can you build a model that shows that you're taking the company to, first of all, generate revenues, and secondly, generate profits? So let's dissect each one of those. Problem you've talked ad nauseum now for the last 3 weeks, right? What are the problems you're trying to solve, and why is it a big problem, right? Why is it a big problem that you're trying to solve? Your first few slides have to address that bang on in your business plan or your document, or whatever you have as a business plan. So here's where I go into Q&A mode. Let's see, I have 15 minutes, so I can engage in a little bit of a banter. What big problem are we facing with our health and our health area right as now? This is very pertinent to today's day and age, shelter in place. So we are facing issues that we don't have cures for, very distinct and killer diseases, cancer, coronavirus. We're facing issues that a lot of deaths happen due to drug interactions. A lot of side effects of drugs are discounted. We are facing issues with the health that not every person responds to the same solution, drug or other surgery. Or what else can you think of? Be civil and go one by one. What big problems are we facing with our health today? Anyone?
Can you please repeat the question?
It's at the bottom in red.
Like people struggling with mental health.
Yep, mental health is the biggest.
Underlying immune systems.
Immune systems.
Struggling
Good
with
problem.
Alzheimer's and
Genetic disease.
What disease? I'm sorry.
People struggling from Alzheimer's and being sent to old age homes.
Yep. Yep. Old age in general is a big health issue on the table. So this section really allows you to think about big problems. Was there another one? Obesity, Ebola, PTSD, yes. A lot of mental problems.
ADHD.
ADHD, a lot of mental problems, a lot of times go undetected for years and years and years. People don't get help. Okay, so this gives you an idea on how to think through big problems. Now you can start to see the theme forming. Okay, there's a big problem, but can I really solve it, right? So the next part of your business plan has the solution to the problem, right? Which is, what is your proposed solution? And why are you uniquely positioned to solve the problem, right? Why is it that your idea has merit, right? And so think about if Steve Jobs had this great idea of a thing called iPhone, but it didn't solve any problem, you know, where would the iPhone be today versus what it has become today? So what big problem did the iPhone solve?
It solved the need to basically communicate, because communication at that time was a struggle for many people. It was not mobile and you cannot carry it around with you. So they've created basically a piece or a device that you can carry around with you. It's mobile and you can basically use it at any time. So communication is far easier and more efficient.
Yeah, agreed. Good one. What else?
Before you would have like bad internet, you couldn't even communicate with your friends and family for long periods of time. Now with the iPhones, you can have with about like 1 hour call time, whereas before you would have to use like rented phones with only like 5-10 minutes of call time.
Yeah, better communication, agreed. Didn't the iPhone also solve an issue where it was an integrated device that you don't need a separate device, you don't need to carry a separate device to hear your music?
Or to research information as well.
Or research information, data side of
Easy access.
All-in-one device, yes. Easy access, yes. Agreed. But think about it, right? It was basically, there were phones before that. There were smartphones before that, the BlackBerry. But the iPhone radically came and changed it, right? In a way, people can say that, oh, you know what? It was a meh kind of an idea, but it did radically change people's lives, right? And someone just wrote it, right? The UI, Steve Jobs' maniacal focus was, you know, how can I make it easy for the end consumer? All he did day and night was to think, how can I make lives of consumers better day after day, right? That was, he was known to a fault to be a jerk on drilling down on people on this concept of making people's lives easier. The next component is the business side of it, right? So yes, there's a problem, you have a solution, but let's think about the business model. Let's think about who will be your customers. Will people, will it be individuals who will buy your product, or will it be businesses? And how will you make money? Will you sell the product, or like Facebook, you know, do it in a different way, or like Google, monetize it by not really selling anything, right? So just to get your brains going on thinking about business model, let's talk about how does Facebook make money? I would say, you know, Facebook could have gone out and said that they would charge each user $1 per month, right? So think about it. Facebook would have gone out and said, look, we're going to offer the solution and we're going to charge you $1 per user per month. And given now they have 2.5 billion customers per month, they would have been making $2.5 billion a month, which means about $30 billion a year in revenue. But they didn't do that. So how does Facebook make money?
Advertisement.
Ads, yes. But there's a larger concept there, right? Which is something that that a lot of you will come across in your idea of focus, which is how do you make someone else to pay for something else? How do you make someone else pay for what you are consuming? Right?
Like kind of a premium deal where ads or anything can be canceled.
Yeah, premium deals are usually upsell, where you get something for free, and then if you want to use advanced features, you pay a subscription. But Facebook basically had this idea that they will offer it free to consumers, and then they will have someone else pay Facebook for access to those consumers. In this case, it was advertising, and everybody here, I'm seeing a stream of ads come in the chat. Ads is the right answer, but I want you to think about this concept in a larger way in your own idea, that how can you get someone else to pay for what you're offering to someone else, right? And this area of sponsorships and ads, etc., are the right way to think. So that's the business model side. The next very important part, and most people get this right, in Silicon Valley especially, right? I have seen 100+ business plans that really get this part, they're knocked to it, right? Product and technology, because we're all technologists here, all right? And so what is a product? What will it look like to your customers? What is your special sauce? What is your technology that is being used to build it? And importantly, do you have protection of your technology, which is IP, which is, have you filed for patents that on your technology? So what is the product and technology that Google offers is the question to you.
Search engine.
Good. So search engine is a product or technology?
Product.
It's a product, good. What is the technology behind the search engine?
Machine learning.
What machine learning?
Wait, what do you mean by what machine learning?
Machine learning is where it sees what the user has said before and gives it searches related to what they have searched before.
Right. So there is an indexing feature that indexes information that when the product, which is a search engine, someone types in a term, it then provides you with the answers.
Google Home.
So Google Home is another one, yes, but let's keep to the search engine. So again, we discussed this in week 1. There were search engines before Google, Yahoo, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of them had editors, manual ways of indexing what is out there in the internet. And so when someone went and searched on Yahoo, the editorial output was someone in the editorial team had gone in and researched and found that information, and they put it out for you. Whereas Google completely changed that. They automated the whole process. And their machine learning engine basically looks at multiple factors, the ranking engine, that basically first indexes all of the websites out there. Secondly, it looks at the popularity of those indexes, because if I search for a topic, say iPhone, there are probably a million sites about iPhone. So which first 10 should it give you? So all of that was machine learning based technology, and they patented it. And because they patented it, today they are a 60 billion plus revenue company on search alone, right? Okay, competition. Rishi, you've been raising your hand feel free to ask question by unmuting yourselves.
Oh,
Whoever.
sorry. Sorry. I think my keybind got messed up.
Okay, no worries. The next one is competition. And again, as I said, VCs love to partake in lengthy discussions on competition. Who else is trying to solve the problem that you're solving, right? And so the question for you is, who's competing with Tesla?
Toyota and all like the car companies.
Chevrolet, Ford.
I mean,
Rolls Royce.
I think all electric car companies, like any Volt or like, yeah.
SUVs, the SUV companies as well.
BMW.
It's basically just the it's
Toyota.
the electric car company because
Yeah, the
Tesla-
hybrid car companies. Yes.
Okay, one at a time, guys. So, so all of you named the behemoths in the car industry for the last 80 years plus who've been around. General Motors and Chevrolet and Toyota and these guys. They are the ones that Tesla is basically, if you look at Tesla's valuation, it's more than all of the US car manufacturers combined. So who is really competing with Tesla? And I asked this on purpose, right? This question, because as you guys all responded, if a VC asks you who you are competing with, and you list a Ford, and if you were Elon, if you list Ford and Hyundai and Suzuki and Toyota and Chevrolet, the VCs are going to say, look, I mean, no, I mean, you're creating a new category here. You're turning the car industry upside down on its head. Other people are going to try to, once, because it's a good idea, other people are going to run to do it. So who's really a competition? And so that's why it is important for you to really think this through. It's very natural for you to say Ford or a Toyota, right? Okay. Marketing and sales, right? So how will you market your product? What's your marketing strategy? Which is what is going to be the messaging, what's going to be the unique value proposition, what's going to be the messaging that's going to get consumers excited about your product, and then how will you sell it? Whether you'll have people who are going to go door to door, knock at your door, and say, "Hey, listen, buy my product," or you're going to sell it through a retailer, right? And so, good, intriguing question again, right? Is how and where is Coca-Cola sold? The drink.
Using commercials?
Commercials? Every 7-Eleven, yes. So in stores, yes. In a vending machine, yes.
Commercials, ads, billboards.
So here is a multi-billion-dollar company, right? Coca-Cola probably makes tens of billions of dollars of revenue, right? It sells worldwide. You never buy the product from Coca-Cola, do you? You do not buy their product from the company. So what this gets you going is are there channel strategies? Are just strategies by which you will sell your products to your customer, not directly, but indirectly, right? Because Coca-Cola, as you all correctly pointed out, you buy through a retailer, a Safeway or a Walmart, or through other means, a 7-Eleven, etc., right? And so this is an important part. When you start thinking about your idea, think about whether you will have direct or indirect sales strategies. You get it? Like Coca-Cola only has indirect strategies, right? You cannot go to coca-cola.com and buy Coca-Cola. Or there is no Coca-Cola store, right? Now, again, Steve Jobs, the brilliant guy he was, changed that because consumer electronics previously was sold only through consumer electronic retailers, a Best Buy or a Fry's. But Steve Jobs, the brilliant guy he was, said, look, you know what? The value proposition of my product is so high that my messaging gets lost. When a person goes to a Best Buy and sees 200 phones, I'm going to take the product directly to the consumer. And he opened up the Apple stores. And it is probably the most successful part of the strategy to where he stands with the iPhone today, right? Okay, team, broken record, team is supremely important. You have to name who's the founding team, what are the credentials, what is the management team, what are the credentials. The question for you is, do startups get founded and run by a single person? Can you think of a startup that got founded and run completely by a single person? I can't think of an example. It's all about teams, 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 teams. And again,
the idea would have originated from a single person, but then the team would be required to be put together to actually implement the idea.
No, but the thing is that different people have different like ideas and different specialties. So like for example, if people in the team say different things, then they won't then they can like combine their ideas to make a better idea that'll appeal more to the general population. So therefore teams both implement and create the product.
Exactly. Yes. The teams need to have the one characteristic, which is those listening skills. They have to be able to incorporate everyone's idea.
Yeah. The reason why we need a team is, everybody has their own expertise, and not one person has like everything needed for a startup.
Yeah, agreed. Even a Steve Jobs needs Woz to bring his idea.
Can't code, right? So Woz needs to code for him.
Exactly. So again, a lot of people come to me and say, hey, listen, I'm not able to find a team. Can I build it myself? I will say no. You have the answer already. A lot of people will come and say that, you know, I'm the only one doing work here. No one is, no one is helping me. I am the one. And guess what? That's a ding against you because you have not been able to bring your team together. So what skills do you have as a leader where you bring the team along? A lot of people in the business plan competition, in the pitch fest, in Shark Tank go up and say, look, I did this, I did that. It was my idea, and the rest of the three are standing at the back. Those teams, I will tell you, do not do well. They will not win the competition. The coaching that I will give you to present in front of VCs is if you say, I, me, myself, my, in front of the VCs, you're going to get shut down and never be funded. So team, 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 team. My third broken record. Remember my 3 broken records? Hard work, social good, teamwork. Okay. And that's it. If you have these, how could I forget? And then everything has to come together with a sound financial plan. At the end of the day, how will you make money, which is how will you make sales, and how will you make profit, which is how will you give returns to the VC. And most startups fail because they have a great idea, they have a good team, they have great capabilities to build a product, but their business model and the financial model really, really sucked. And most startups fail because of that. So that's the food for thought at the bottom that you guys should think about. Again, bringing this all together. Sorry, I've gone a couple of minutes late. We started late. You guys should all be present at 5 sharp, as I will be next time onwards. But bringing it all together, these are the 8 pieces of the puzzle. Again, I will post these slides on Slack. So what's your homework for today? I'm gonna pin Marc's IPO letter, the Hacker Way. What are the top 3 ideas or traits that inspire you from the Hacker Way? So you have to read the 6 pages and come up with 3 and 3 only, bullet point and bullet point only. I don't want to see a wrong write-up that inspire you the most. And think about how will these 3 traits impact your startup. So your startup as it's coming up, what 3 traits that you will learn from the Hacker Way that you will implement in your startup that will help your startup, right?
You could do this as a team or as an individual.
Read the bottom, please. So you will send it to me as direct message in Slack. You will submit it as a team because it's your startup, and startup has a team. It's not an individual.
I have a question.
I'm sorry?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So you said that the most bottom bullet point, it says create a private channel for your team with me. Channel name is the name of your startup. What if your channel name isn't exactly what you want for your product name to be?
It's okay. Right now we are aiming for a cool name for your startup. It may or may not be the name of your product, right?
And also, can we add you to an already existing channel?
Yes, but I don't want to be a part of your discussions around scheduling things and complaining to each other and your random chats. I'd like to keep a channel with me where you submit to me or ask questions of me rather than all of the chitter chatter that happens between you guys. Again, I answer every question that comes to me. There's not one I've not answered. I evaluate every homework submitted to me and I provide you with my comments. A lot of times I have follow-up questions for you, as a lot of you have seen. Please read my comments because you will see that I try to give you feedback. Ask any question, I will answer it. And that's
so
it.
do you think I could real quick, if you could go to the HackerWay slide just to see the different components?
I will post this, but more importantly, I'm going to post the letter, this letter, which you're going to analyze.
I see.
Those 5 points I put in the slide are not all encompassing. What I'd like you to do is take this letter, which is going to be pinned on the right side, read it, look at the first section, which is the problem and the solution. The second section is about the business model and the product. And the third one is the hacker way, which is really the quintessential part of this. The hacker way is how do you build the values into your startup that allows you to be as successful as Facebook, right? Which has components such as focus on impact, be open, be bold, fail fast, and remember social value.
Bye.
So like what if so like what if one of our teammates is like, I don't know, AFK I guess, and they haven't been responding for quite some time? Like how do we get in contact with them?
If they're not responding to you, let them know that you're going to kick them out and get alternatives instead of them.
How do we create a group chat with you and a couple other people?
So you would want to create a private channel. Call the channel the name of your startup. For example, again, Oxygen for All. Include in that channel, invite people of your team and invite me. So the private, and remember to call it private, don't make it public. And then that channel would be purely between your team and me.
So I tried to invite people. I invited 2 of my team members, but it said it was an error and they were already in my inbox.
Sorry, I can't help you debug Slack, but it's quite easy. Do it, create a new channel.
Thank you.
I have a few questions. First of all, what is your opinion on like private investors or VCs compared to like firms? Because I know if you have like individual investors, then you can get like, sometimes they'll take less equity.
Yeah. Why don't you direct message me and I will answer your question. I don't think it's too pertinent for the breadth of the class right now, because think about a majority of the participants are middle schoolers. So direct message me, I'll answer your question, but for everybody, there's a set of investors called angel investors who invest individually. I'm an angel investor myself, I will invest. But a lot of times it's a firm like Kleiner Perkins, like Sequoia we talked about. So this gentleman is asking the difference between the two. We can talk about it next week if there's more interest.
Excuse me?
Yes.
What happens if a venture capitalist invests in an idea and the idea fails? Is the person that the venture capitalist invests in responsible for paying them back, or no?
No, that's a very good question. And that therein lies the difference between a normal investor we talked about that gives you a loan and therefore it becomes a shark, versus a venture capitalist who takes equity in your company. And basically, if the equity in your company goes to zero, as in the company fails, then their value of the investment goes to zero as well. It's all fair and square. Again, any follow-up questions, ask on Slack. I'm going to call it a wrap for today. Thank you all. This was a good class.
Thank you, sir.
It's getting,
that was very helpful.
Bye.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Yes?
So my team, some of us aren't some of us aren't able to join the Slack, so we're doing a Hangouts group. Should we add you to that?
Why are you not able to join Slack? I have everyone
I don't
on
know.
Slack.
One of my teammates aren't able to join.
We can help them join. I'm not doing any other channel apart from Slack.
Okay.
Try to help them because Slack is pretty easy. If they need help, then if you can't help them, then I'm able to help them. Direct message me so I can contact them.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.